Conversion kits and aftermarket parts are probably one of the greatest things added to Warzone 3. Being able to take a gun and turn it into something it wasn't intended to be is a really cool mechanic, and we've seen a ton this past year. I'm Ornery, and this is the entire history of conversion kits in Warzone. I'm not including aftermarket attachments since I already have a video for that, but go ahead and comment your favorite conversion kit as we get started. The first of many to come, the Pully 762 was an LMG that had a conversion kit that pretty much turned it into an assault rifle. Out of all the conversion kits on this list, this one is definitely like the most tame when it comes to like experimental changes. It almost acts as like a weapon variant back in the day where it increases some stats while decreasing others. Giving you faster ADS and movement was one thing, but this still let you keep all the major benefits of an LMG. And on top of that, this was objectively the best LMG at the time. No recoil, fast fire rate, and extremely high damage while still dominating at mid to even short ranges. The JAK Annihilator to this day is still extremely useful, especially if you're playing on big map, since that large magazine gives you even more forgiveness. There is a gold ground loot Pully with a conversion kit in the rotation right now, and it might be the best ground loot gun in the entire game at the moment. Normally when you hear about a revolver in Warzone, it involves the snake shots. Well, although that was true in Warzone 3 at launch, shortly after the nerf, it was discovered that there was still a pre-existing conversion kit for the tier called the JAK Beholder. This turned the revolver into a precision carbine rather than a pistol. Throwing on a 2x scope and kitting this thing out for recoil and fire rate gave us a brief but very balanced pistol meta that had a 2-shot potential to the test or above. I actually had a chance to use this at its peak, and it really wasn't half bad and still fairly balanced in my opinion. 2-shot may sound broken, but when you factor in the fact that there's only 5 rounds per magazine, if you missed your shots, you were pretty much screwed. And on top of that, the velocity was awful, so trying to substitute this as like an actual sniper is just not a good look. And this has since been nerfed to be more than 2 shots unless you hit a double headshot, I believe. The MCW never really got a chance to shine in Warzone except for the JAK Raven conversion kit. This turned the MCW into an SMG instead of an AR. Now, this definitely leaned way more into sniper support territory than like a super close range SMG, and the reason I say that is this thing has always been outgunned by something else at the really close ranges. But if you wanted something to run alongside an LMG or a sniper, this was your go-to. This gun has seen a lot of viability throughout this past year, and even after some nerfs and buffs is a great option right now. The Haymaker was the better of the 2 fully automatic shotguns in Warzone 3, and that was further proved when the JAK Maglift was introduced. This turned the gun from fully auto into a binary trigger and gave it an insane 60-round magazine. I've said it on this channel before, but for those that don't know what a binary trigger is, it shoots a bullet when you squeeze the trigger and then shoots another bullet when you release it. So if you spam this thing, it was actually like faster than being fully automatic. Now, this didn't have too much time in the sun, and that's because initially you could use the conversion kit with Dragon's Breath rounds, which obviously made it insanely broken, but once they removed the Dragon's Breath support, it was still decent, but not near as good as before. If you want to blind your opponent, this was the gun you would use as well because it just like shot fire everywhere. The JAK Ferocity kit, or whatever it's called, I'm so sorry if I pronounced that wrong, was actually in Modern Warfare 3 at launch, but got a buff alongside Season 2, which resulted in one of the fastest TTKs of any gun in Warzone that wasn't a one-shot sniper or shotgun. The conversion kit changed the pistol from a 3-round burst, which might I add is actually pretty decent on its own, like probably my favorite starter pistol, to a fully automatic SMG with fast mobility, little recoil, and high damage. This was actually a lot of fun to use, but still an absolute plague on Warzone for a couple days. And I say days, and that's because this legit barely made it half a week before getting completely vaulted from the game and is now completely useless. The BP-50 is actually probably one of my more favorite metas that we saw in Warzone this year. Releasing as a part of the Fortune's Keep update, I thought it was a ton of fun and acted like as this middle ground between an AR and SMG. Well, a few months later, we got the JAK Revenger conversion kit. This took everything about the BP-50 that made it an AR and put it into an SMG. This not only increased the mobility and ADS speed, but also increased the default magazine size to 60, which was a huge help. Being one of the more viable SMGs at the time, it was still pretty good with or without this conversion kit. This gets overshadowed by other guns since there have been a lot of SMGs to choose from in Warzone 3, especially during this state of the game. But there used to be a ton of BP-50 ground loot guns with this conversion kit on them that were actually very useful in the early game. Fun fact, this next entry was the undeniable meta with or without this conversion kit. The JAK Nightshade got a buff later in Warzone's life cycle that shot it to the top in Warzone's meta. Turning an AR into an SMG like the JAK Raven is one thing, but turning an LMG into an SMG is another, and that's exactly what the Nightshade did with the DG58. Now, this was pretty much the same as the Renetti conversion kit in just about every way: fast mobility, quick ADS, and insane TTK. The only thing holding it back was its default 40-round magazine. The Nightshade was also, I think, trying to be like a knockoff of the Groza and like looked pretty cool in my opinion. But like I said, the LMG was the best long range meta at the time, so until the Nightshade nerf, which wasn't long at all, your best bet was running one DG58 kitted out as an LMG, then the other with this conversion kit. For those that don't remember, at the very end of Warzone 2, we saw the Kastov 7.62 as the very dominant long-range meta contender. Well, moving into Warzone 3, we all know that all Modern Warfare 2 guns have become super irrelevant and useless. Well, with conversion kits, this gives these old MW2 guns an opportunity, and that's exactly what we got with the JAK Requiem for the Kastov 7.62. This conversion kit kind of stands out from the other ones in that it just has like one focus in mind, and that is eliminate any and all recoil and absolutely nothing else. And let's just say it did that very well. I think its only downside was a very small hit to your bullet velocity, but since this gun was a laser, that didn't really matter. Any gun that legit has no recoil is broken, but since it didn't do anything to the damage or damage range, I didn't see this as being broken like everyone said it was. Maybe it was just really easy to use, but I didn't really see a problem with this, but everyone was calling it broken. If you played Warzone 2 until the very end, you probably remember the Lachmann Shroud, and if you didn't, you're not really missing much. The Lachmann Shroud was pretty much the same as the Lachmann Sub, aka the MP5, but instead of being fully automatic, it was a 3-round burst. Anyways, come Warzone 3, this was also very useless. Shocking, I know. That was until the JAK Decimator was added to the game. This simply turned the gun into fully auto. Anyways, this somehow made the gun really good for some reason and actually gave it one of the fastest TTKs in the game. I didn't use this as much because it objectively wasn't the best option, but still a decent meta contender, and I don't understand why they couldn't just buff the original Lachmann Sub, since that's like pretty much what this gun had turned into. Instead, they just gave one of the most random guns a conversion kit. I don't know, it made absolutely no sense. When the Horus launched alongside Rebirth, it was one of the worst SMGs you could possibly use. Then the JAK Scimitar, whatever it's called, conversion kit was introduced. This conversion kit sort of did the opposite of the Raven kit for the MCW and turned the gun into more of an AR rather than an SMG. This conversion kit was adjacent to a buff for the base Horus as well, so I think that played a part in catapulting this gun into the meta. I don't have much to say other than to me this kind of slowed down the gun enough to not really be an SMG contender, but also not good enough to replace your AR. Definitely nowhere near being a bad gun, but I just didn't prefer it. To this day, there are a ton of ground loot Horuses with this conversion kit on them. Now we're getting to some of the more broken and fun guns on this list. The RPK was the meta that kicked off Warzone 2 and dominated for the first few months of the game. Well, it re-emerged almost a year and a half later once the JAK Cataclysm AMP made its debut. This may be the closest gun we've had to the DMR. This conversion kit turned the RPK LMG into a 50 caliber semi-automatic carbine. Now, it did have decent recoil and awful ADS speed, but where it shined was its raw damage output. A 2-shot kill at any range often didn't even give you a chance to shoot back. This was another gun that probably shouldn't have made it to live servers, but I had a lot of fun with it while it lasted. Now, I'm not necessarily mad at a 2-shot potential, but I think the fire rate was more so the problem here. That's the whole thing with it. It was like you got killed so quickly, you barely could react to the first shot. And this thing still dominates in multiplayer to this day. The JAK Protean or Protean, whatever, is extremely similar to the Cataclysm for a lot of reasons. The first is that it was on an MW2 LMG, this time being the RAAL. And the second is it also turns the LMG into a high damage semi-automatic destroyer. I think technically you could run this in full auto, but it didn't have near as much damage. Anyways, as I just said, it was pretty much identical to the RPK conversion kit, but the main difference was a way more faster fire rate and a 75 round magazine at the exchange of less damage. And it wasn't that much less damage, but enough to not be a 2-shot, but still be extremely easy to use. I didn't get to use this one as much, but if I had a chance to choose one, I would probably lean more towards the RPK Cataclysm. We've seen an exploit with the Core 45 conversion kit where mouse and key players were binding the fire button to their mouse wheel, and this let you achieve an insane fire rate that no human was capable of. But we're back with another and different exploit this time. This time with the same conversion kit, but now with akimbo support, which was not designed to happen. It involved the corkscrew blueprint, which I'm pretty sure was free to earn, and all you had to do was manually remove everything, then add the attachments you wanted, including the akimbo, then with the mouse manually equip the conversion kit. A mouse was actually required to be plugged in to get this conversion kit bug to work. I don't know why. The result was having akimbo Core 45s with the XRK IP conversion kit equipped. This, like the previous exploit, wasn't intended and resulted in fast movement, laser hip fire, fast fire rate, and extreme damage. This also bugged the gun to look like it was missing the top slide, which was really weird and kind of like cursed. But for about a week, these things were really destroying Warzone. They have since been nerfed and no longer offer akimbo support even with any exploits. The This next one is every bit of a meme entry. The KATT-AMR is the only sniper in the game that can one-shot any range with no special attachment necessary. Well, there's one other way to make this one-shot at any range, and that's not with the traditional ammo. Enter the JAK Salvo conversion kit. This turns the gun into a rocket launcher. Yes, you heard me right, a rocket launcher sniper. This replaces your 50 cal bullets with a rocket that is possibly the slowest bullet, or I guess rocket, to travel out of any gun in any Call of Duty. On the bright side, this does one-shot at any range as long as you direct impact them, and also has some splash damage that's something to be concerned with if you're on the receiving end. To me, this was the closest attempt we've had to the Ride Tech explosive or incendiary ammo from Warzone 1, but not near as viable. Still a really funny gun that we've had in Warzone. So the Reclaimer is Modern Warfare 3's version of the Spaz, and when it came out, it was super bad in Warzone. But that has since been changed with the introduction of the JAK Devastators. These have been in the game for like a month, and as of me making this video, are still very much so alive and well. This was just giving akimbo support for the Reclaimer, and I think aside from the snake shots and Lockwood 300 at launch, and our next entry on this list, this is the only shotgun that could one-shot through this era of Warzone. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. Anyways, being one-shot is always a head turner, but it's redeemable in that the way that this only supports 4 rounds in the magazine, and you need shots from both guns to get the one shot. So since you need both guns, maybe you could call it a 2-shot. I don't know, whatever you want to make of that. Might I add that if a shotgun is going to one shot, this is the kind of the way to do it. This gives you 4 kills per mag potentially, but that's without missing a single shot at the perfect range, and you're not even able to get a single finish along the way either. It's still probably broken, and right now I get pretty annoyed every time I die to this, and it also supports incendiary ammo as well. Rounding off this list, we have the last conversion kit added to Modern Warfare 3 and potentially in all of Warzone. And that is for probably the worst gun in the entire game, and that is the Stormender. I bet a lot of you don't even know that the Stormender was in the game, and that's because its max damage output is 1 HP no matter where you hit them. It shot an EMP pulse-like lightning bolt that I think was designed to take out kill streaks and equipment. Well, the JAK Voltstorm turned this gun into a charge shot shotgun. This now went from 1 damage all the way up to 300. Yes, this thing has one-shot potential. You had to charge it up to full blast, which took a second or two, and you also had to be really close, but if you landed a decent body shot, it would kill anyone. Not only that, but this gun also had unlimited ammo, and I don't mean that with any type of exaggeration. You just had to let it cool down between shots. This is yet another way to do the whole one-shot shotgun. Just be really close with no rapid fire shots, and a charge shot at that as well. On top of being really close, you also have to hit like the perfect body shot because this thing feels really inconsistent. But that's the entire history of conversion kits in Warzone. I know I'm definitely gonna miss this like feature or edition or whatever you want to call it come Black Ops 6, and the reason I say that is there is like no evidence supporting that there's going to be conversion kits in Black Ops 6 or anything similar, but I guess we'll see. Let me know if I missed any or if you think there should be anything that was on this list that I didn't mention, because there are a ton of conversion kits in this game, so there's probably one you think that should have been on here. But if you want to hear me talk about the entire history of scandals, snipers, shotguns, or glitches and exploits, click on screen now. Join my Discord if you're feeling crazy, and if you liked, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a dislike, and thank you so much for watching.